To me, a professional bass angler is being a professional driver, professional handyman, professional boat operator, social media guy. Being a professional angler these days means a whole lot. You have to be passionate about bass fishing. It's more than being passionate. You have to absolutely live it, breathe it, consume it. Because if you don't, you just simply won't last. Whether it's a social media thing or it's competition, if you're not giving it 110%, you simply don't belong there. Success to me is staying with it and creating a following. So just last week, we were on Toledo Bend. This is life on the tour. You know, every now and then we'll have back-to-back tournaments where in 2 weeks span, you have 2 tournaments. This year, you know, we happen to have both starting tournaments in the state of Texas. So Toledo Bend, then Lake Fork. We just wrapped up the first tournament of the 2024 season, Toledo Bend, 23rd place finish. But we have no time to enjoy it. We got to go right to Lake Fork, just a 3-hour drive north of here. You know, we got about an hour or so of packing up to do. Yeah, our 47-foot RV is an absolute traveling circus, from podcasting and podcast guests, 3 dogs who are just as wild as can be. Life on the road is very, very grueling. It's taxing on your body, your family, your animals, your pets. You have to stay on top of all that stuff, otherwise you get buried. I started out bass fishing when I was probably about 11, 12 years old, and I caught that first bass, and I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. I started out fishing local clubs out of a little kick boat, pontoon boat, and made my way up from there. In 2005, I was fortunate enough to win a Bassmaster Open as a co-angler. I won a boat, and most guys, when they win a bass boat at that age, they either sell it, get rid of it, you know, cash in on it. Not me. I wanted to take that bass boat and I wanted to enter every single tournament. I took it from the club level to local pro-ams. And once I started winning a couple, pro-ams on the professional side, I started taking it nationally. I fished the Bassmaster Opens in 2012. I ended up placing first overall in points in 2012, and that right there solidified my Bassmaster Elite Series ticket, and I was all in from there. I've been here 13 years now, and you know, there's no shortcuts getting to the professional level. You really have to take it one step at a time. All right, it's a short 3-hour drive. We made it to Lake Fork. After setting up camp here, we'll go ahead and do a little tackle, eat some dinner, and then get right to it. Practice first thing in the morning.
Oh, it's breaking.
3, 2, go! There it went. 3, 2, 1, go!
One thing about RVs, you gotta be a handyman if you're gonna own an RV.
Just balancing all that stuff and knowing you gotta catch fish the very next morning is a full-time job. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I really thrive in chaos, and that's what that RV is. Lake Fork is absolutely the premier bass fishing destination in the country, in the world. Every time the tournaments come to Lake Fork, you need 30+ pounds to hang each and every day. So many 7, 8, and 9 pound bass. Everything is bigger in Texas. The bigger the bait, the bigger the bass. So that's exactly what I tied up.
All right, just got done rigging up a few rods here. You can't go to Lake Fork without having a big glide bait on, whether you're doing the forward-facing sonar thing or you're fishing shallow clay points. There's something about this bigger profile that drives those 7 and 8 pounders wild. Dangerous loaded swimmer, top hook version where you could really slow creep it. When one eats that, it is all business. So top hook swim bait, and then also a line through style 7-inch swim bait as well. 3 swim baits, and of course you can't discount the spinning rod here, the little jig-headed minnows, whether they're spawning or not. you could always catch fish in 2024 on a jig-headed minnow on a spinning rod using forward-facing sonars. Game plan's real simple. I got a lot of history on Lake Fork, and I'm ready to check a lot of stuff over the next 3 days of practice. All right, here it is, the traveling circus. Dogs. Every time I come back in, we're greeted, heat, me and Trait on our toes. So that's Michi, this is Laika, and that's Nebo. And of course, Trait, my wife. She's the one who keeps this whole shit together. This is our home on the road. Right up here is the bedroom. It's a queen size bed. Not bad at all. So we got a little fireplace, flat screen TV. I mean, we're fishermen, right? So there's tackle always lying around somewhere. Full fridge, right? I mean, you gotta have a full fridge.
What do these guys like to live with in a 48-foot trailer?
Messy. Let's just say things don't get wiped down when I'm gone.
Hey, we're dudes, right? And if my right shoe ends up over there, my left shoe ends up over there, hey, that's how it is. And then back over here, check this out. This is the Bilge Podcast room. So, Charles, my main man, this is where he sleeps. That bed actually goes up and down. Trait will reach out to a lot of people in the industry and set up these podcasts. We talk about, the hottest topics in fishing, whether it's forward-facing sonar, business. This is normally my seat right over here. Trait sits right there, and our guest always sits right here. So a really cool setup back here. No other person on tour has a traveling podcast. When you hop on a podcast and talk about real life stuff or real life fishing business, when someone comes up to me at the gas station and says, oh, that podcast you did with so-and-so, that really opened up my eyes to really what the sport of bass fishing is, that's success. You got Charles, who actually films and shoots everything. I provide the content, whether it's an electronics video or a tip video, how to, or just a simple vlog. And then she's in charge of the managerial stuff, right? She'll let me know like what topics to talk about. The biggest thing I could tell, young anglers is communication. Having a wife that communicates with my sponsors and scheduling, and she does all the uploads, all the titling, and I can't do that.
You just need to be yourself, put yourself out there, be vulnerable. People can't fall in love with you if they don't know who you are.
And let me add, hard work, lots and lots of hard work. You have to live it, breathe it, consume it. People just want to know what you're up to, so you have to deliver almost every day. The biggest misconception in professional angling is they make a ton of money. We simply don't. You have to work hard to earn money. And it's like that with anything in life. And that's either working hard, social media, it's working hard on the water. The harder you work, the more money you make. All right, after fishing 6 days straight on Toledo Bend, we had 1 day off, but it was a travel day. And now we're back out here on Lake Fork. Bright and early this morning, I got all my tackle done. Big swim baits are gonna be the deal for me this week. And although Lake Fork has a lot of fish in it, you really need those 6, 7, 8 pounders. Heck, they even have them up to 11, 12, 13 pounds here. First day of practice, I fully intend on looking for this swim bait bite, right? Because everything's bigger in Texas, and the bigger the baits you throw, the bigger the bites you're going to get. In 2024, it's all about social media clips, right? So I got a nice little kit here, several different cameras, recording devices, so we don't miss any of these big fish catches out here on Lake Fork. Whenever my boat is launched, I will always hit the record button, whether it's practice or a tournament. You basically open up your day, open up your life to the audience, and in this day and age, and that's what people want to see. Practice day one, I got a job to do. I got to find and locate winning fish, 25, 30 pounds out here on Lake Fork. You have to go through this giant checklist of what the fish should be doing, and then you just kind of check them off. Okay, they're not doing that, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. Oh, maybe they're doing this. There's a bite, and then we duplicate it from there. That's a little one. I run through baits like crazy. Day one of practice was not what I expected. I caught 1 6-pounder, and then I just had some 3 and 4 pound class fish bites. That's not gonna cut it on Lake Fork, but I learned a lot. All right, day one of practice is in the books. I'm just gonna re-rig a couple rods here and make sure I'm good to go for day 2 of practice tomorrow. So I started out with just 4 rods today, and of course, we had to expand a little bit. Looking at my live scope, I saw a lot of big ones following up my swim bait. And a lot of times when they just follow it, you know, I'll just go with a different profile swim bait. You know, sometimes larger, sometimes smaller. We got a 25-mile-an-hour south wind starting tomorrow, and then Wednesday, the third day of practice, a 30-plus-mile-an-hour north wind. So you really have to be prepared for anything and everything that's thrown at you. So tomorrow's a new day. Right, day 2 practice starts right now. Beautiful morning, Lake Fork. It's gonna be like 80 degrees today. We're gonna start shallow this morning. It's really warm, it's cloudy. The morning commute. Yesterday I was running and gunning points, fishing the big swim bait. We're gonna slow down a little bit, just kind of run through different baits. Told myself I'd put the swim bait down a little bit today. Lake Fork is by far the heaviest pressured lake in the state of Texas, and it's not a big lake. The fish are very, very pressured. They're very weary. So this is a typical pre-spawn area here. And essentially what we have is just a large bay with scattered grass, just kind of going down the bank, trying to feel my way through, both on the active target scout mode and Garmin live scope. I'm just seeing fish moving real fast through those little clumps of grass. That's a nice one. Let's go ahead and hit a waypoint right there, because that's a 5+ pounder. Nice Texas bass there, real thick. I mean, real thick in the shoulders. And I actually saw that clump of grass about, 80 feet out, and I made the cast over it, gave it one pop out of the grass, and that fish ate it. Pretty typical pre-spawn shallow grass. My phone's been blowing up. I guess Trait's phone's been blowing up too. I had the idea of just going up to 18 different dudes and having them show me their electronic setup, and the average was $30,000, all to chase bass in 2024. I'm just looking at the video now. It's got like 50,000 views, I think, in just a few hours. Pretty crazy. Oh, if you ever want to stir up social media and bass fishing, post anything about forward-facing sonar, and the comment section just goes nuts. Water temperature in this little pocket here, 63.5 degrees. Right down the middle of this ditch, it's about 4.5, 5 feet. I didn't fish anything this shallow yesterday, but you gotta check it all in practice. Having multiple options is the name of the game in tournament fishing. I'm fishing sticks right now, and I'm looking up here, and about 50, 60 yards, I see coots. And those coots, they eat the hydrilla, so the grass starts because the coots tell me that. And after catching that last fish in a clump of grass, that excites me right there when I see those coots diving down for grass. So for the 12 years I've been fishing Lake Fork, out of the whole lake, I would say that this is exactly where they show up to spawn first. And with only one bite in this area, it's kind of leading me to my next decision, which is we're gonna go ahead and move out, move a little bit deeper, and focus on drains and secondary points. You're learning more when you're not catching fish than when you are catching fish. And if you strike out, you just cross it off the list. And if we don't see them here, we fish a couple secondaries, we may fish a gut or two close to the spawning area, and then we'll just work further and further out towards that main lake and main channel. Eventually we'll run into them, but once you kind of find how far away they are from that spawning area, then you could kind of duplicate it across the whole lake. And at that point, it's just matching shapes. So yesterday I had a lot of big swim bait followers on secondary and main points. I'm gonna try to imitate just a crawdad, just banging it off the clay and rock points. See that? That's clay. And that's what they get on pre-spawn here. Make a move, switch it up. Just around the corner here, I got a couple of spots. We're gonna work our way towards the dam, getting that clear water. This is just a big soft swim bait, huge profile swim bait, yeah. Another follower. Man, that is weird. Weird, weird, weird. Water temperature right here, I mean, it's 55 degrees. It's still cold right here on this kind of main lake, Clay Point. And I just see them swimming up and then going down, swimming up and going down. Finally got one to bite. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of followers on that swim bait. I
Finally saw one just kind of cruising and pitched a jig over there and it immediately bit it. Right now the swim bait bite's kind of slow, so I'm having to switch up to the jig. Fished some main lake points, didn't catch much out there again, and then we went back into the coves and pockets. That's a giant, dude. That's an absolute Texas monster right there. Wow, look at that thing. That's a 7-pounder. That's a beauty. I had a feeling about those flat pockets. All right, girl, you told me a lot, thank you. Bye, sis. Now let's send that to my wife so she can calm down a little bit. Today I'm just utilizing forward-facing sonar. Every time I see a blob moving across some of the center of these pockets, these fish are coming off the main lake, entering these coves. That's a big fish right there. Wow. Let's see if it wants a worm. It seems like I've used a lot more variety of lures because every single fish we see on our electronics, each has a different personality. There she is. There's another nice one. It's a real lazy bite. These fish are real slow and lazy because they're spawning. And the only way to get them to bite is something real slow, jigging and worming. Short main lake pockets. Nice, girl.
Day 2 was a good one. We caught some monster bass and we eliminated a lot more water. And when you could catch fish and eliminate water at the same time, that's ideal. I haven't seen my dogs in a couple days, so this will be interesting. I know!
You wanna go play tetherball?
My dogs they look mean, but they're just huge teddy bears. When I open up the doors to the RV and they're wagging their tails and they're jumping all over me, glad to see me for the day. No matter how good or bad my days go, I know my dogs are always here for me, right? Man's best friend. If it's a very stressful day, the fishing isn't very good, I could always come home and they always put a smile on my face. Uh-oh, he should drop. I think Trey's gonna have to order a new tetherball for, all right, that's it. Third day of practice, Lake Fork. It dropped 40 degrees and there's a 30-mile-an-hour north winds. Despite the weather the way it was, I still pulled into some of those pockets and we continue to have a phenomenal day. Got her. 8-pounder after 8-pounder after 8-pounder. And I'm just throwing a swim bait, a swim jig, and a jerk bait, but they're not chasing anything. So you really have to present each and every lure right in front of the fish's face and coax them into biting. But boy, they bit. Got her. Yeah, oh my gosh. How big is that fish? Our pattern is absolutely established. You've got a large spawning bay. They literally enter through the middle, hang out on the timber in the middle, and then once they feel like spawning, then they'll go to the sides and start spawning. Oh! By the end of the day, I racked up 40 pounds for a 5-fish limit. Why can't we start this tournament a day early? I'm typically the first one at the ramp. It's myself and legendary Rick Clun. I'll chill out in my Tundra, listen to some music, just kind of go through how I want the day to go. Just making sure that I'm prepared for every single scenario. Okay, the boat is launched. We are about to get day 1 Lake Fork underway. This is my home state of Texas. Lake Fork is my jam, man. It really is. And I am driven by big bass here. I mean, after having the day 3 practice I had, I'm so ready to get out there and compete on day 1. No matter how this tournament shakes out, the show goes on. The show goes on. The podcast, the social medias, posting every other day, engaging with the fans. With all these different cameras rolling from GoPros to chesties, we got the big camera on day one, and that's the Bassmaster Live camera. The show still goes on. If you want to become a pro bass fisherman and survive on tour, work hard, hit that record button, and don't let anyone beat you.
All right, that is a wrap for the Lake Fork tournament, the second Elite Series event of the 2024 season. Ultimately, it was a swim jig beatdown. I weighed 22 pounds, 23 pounds, 25 pounds, really just locating fish on my forward-facing sonar. Good morning from Lake Fork. Boy, do I love Texas. I'd grab a swim jig with a nice straight-tailed trailer and just kind of swim that jig right over their heads. Worked for me on day one, day two. I did catch a big swim bait fish on day 3 of the tournament that gave me 25 pounds, but a 36th place finish. Just an awesome week and a great start to the 2024 season. Thank you all for hanging out between the scales. And if you haven't checked out any of the other pros between the scales, make sure you do that on the Bass Pro channel.